Hi everyone, my name is Chaitni and I am a mindset and nutrition coach. I work with clients to help them cope with stress, depression, or anxiety through healthy habit formation, lifestyle changes, and incorporating proper nutrition. So every week I drop a wellness related video. So if wellness is something that interests you or intrigues you, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. If you're more of a reader and you enjoy blogs, make sure to sign up for my bi-weekly blog that covers some self-care and self-love reminders. The link is in the description. And lastly, you can follow me on Instagram at Imperfect Bodies by C. Modi. So this week's topic is all about parents. It really focuses on how to communicate with our parents. At the end of the day, it's hard to just cut off all ties with parents, unless obviously they're beyond toxic. I get that. But most of us try to at least maintain some sort of relationship with them, hopefully, one that's healthy versus not healthy. So the video today really covers some ways that can help you better communicate with your parents. What does this have to do with wellness? Well, everything. Every part of your life is intertwined. It's all interconnected because how you feel and how you think really has an impact on the choices you make. Those are the food choices, those are the choices of the people you allow in your life, the way you live your life. All of that is dependent on your feelings and thoughts. So if your relationship with your parents isn't exactly where you want it to be, it will affect your choices, whether they have to do with food, with alcohol, with the company you keep, any of that. It will impact your lifestyle, it will impact your moods, it could lead to emotional eating. You get that phone call from mom and all she does is complain about your dad, and the next thing you know is you're shoving a brownie down your throat. So many of us have been there. We've done that. So this video hopefully can turn that around for you and not lead to some of those unhealthy choices that have to do with your well-being. So I'll be sharing 5 different ways that can help you start communicating better with your parents and hopefully enhance the relationship that you have with them, or at least develop an amicable relationship where it's tolerable for both parties and somewhat healthy for both parties. So first and foremost, if you want to fix the relationship with your parents, or at least be on good terms with them, decent terms with them, you need to start seeing them as human beings and not just as your parents. I know sometimes that's really hard to do because they are mom and dad for you, but before they were mom and dad, and even while they're mom and dad, they are human beings. And as much as we all think we know what we're doing, we really don't. Nobody really knows what they're doing. At the end of the day, all we're doing is our best. And that is what they did. And so this is the number one step in being able to forgive them because these were your number one caretakers, and somewhere they may have failed to take care of you the way you needed to be taken care of. And that's not because it's intentional, it's not because it's personal, it's just because they had their own baggage, they had their own stories that they brought with them, and unfortunately, this is how it all manifested. So the sooner you start to see them as human beings and more than mom and dad, the sooner you'll be able to forgive, and the sooner you'll be able to let go of any kind of anger and resentment. And when you walk into any relationship or you try to maintain any relationship without the ingredients of anger, resentment, hurt, you automatically develop this empathy, and you automatically develop this curiosity and this level of understanding. And that is where you want to get to. But in order to get there, you need to start seeing them as human beings and realizing that they did their absolute best. Given their strengths, given their abilities, given their trauma, they did the best that they could do given those circumstances. Hindsight is always 20/20. You weren't in their heads, you weren't in their hearts. So ideally, we wish they would have done a better job. But given what they had in life, they tried to do the best that they could do. So start seeing them as human beings. And just, one caveat, a lot of what I'm sharing with you, obviously it's based on research, but it's also based on my personal history. So these are, strategies that I have used in my relationship with my parents. That relationship is not impeccable. It's not perfect. We have a lot of ups and downs. We encounter hiccups here and there, but at least we've gotten to a point where we can discuss, we can talk, and we can have a healthy dialogue and move forward. And that's exactly what I want for you. So with that, let me share strategy number 2, or suggestion number 2, is stop comparing your parents to other parents. This is something that I did growing up. Thankfully, I've stopped doing it now, but it's very easy to do that. When you come across friends or even family that come from a very loving household, or their parents have qualities and traits that you admire that you wish your parents had, and they don't. It's easy to be envious of these people. It's easy to wish you were in their shoes and that you had the kind of parents that these people have, and you had the kind of love and the kind of financial cushioning or the kind of understanding, whatever it is that you're looking for. You wish that you had that. But that really is a recipe for disaster. That comparison it really keeps you stuck in a loop of being in la la land, where you remain unfulfilled and you remain always wanting more than what you actually have. And it really takes away from seeing the good that it already exists. Because you're aspiring for something that really doesn't exist, that may or may not happen. So the sooner you stop comparing, the sooner you'll be able to accept your parents for who they are. It's as simple as that. And acceptance doesn't mean loving that side of them or appreciating that side of them, or choosing to completely embrace that side of them. But acceptance really is the first step in just understanding that, all right, this is the reality, and now you can go ahead and make the changes that you wish to make. You start to bear the burden of what needs to be done. You become the torchbearer for change instead of putting that onus on your parents or on others around you. That's why it's very important to not compare, let that comparison go. And that comparison can go both ways. There are parents who wish that their children were more like their friends' kids, or their children were, I don't know, more intelligent or more wealthy or more sorted or whatever it is. So this is something that goes both ways, and it needs to stop both ways, because it really, again, it takes away from the person that you really are, from the person that people that they are. So accept them for who they are, and it'll be a lot easier to mend the relationship that you have with them. All right, suggestion number 3, this should come as no surprise, is setting boundaries. That is extremely important. Boundaries are invaluable in every single relationship, no matter who you have that relationship with, including yourself. I feel like it's a necessary component of any healthy relationship. So as scary as it may feel, as pointless as it may feel, because some of the behavior is very repetitive, you have to put your foot down. You have to set those ground rules, and more importantly, you have to stick to those ground rules, because if you don't, you will continue to enable that unhealthy behavior repeatedly. So in order to stop that cycle and to stop that pattern, you have to set those rules. And it's really important that, these boundaries are not just to protect you, but the boundaries are really to communicate with your parents, what their actions do to you, because there is a consequence to their behavior. There are repercussions. So explaining that clearly and saying that, when you do this, I feel this way. You might need to say that multiple times in order to get your point across, but that is something that you have to do. And like I said, I know it can feel scary. I know it can feel like a waste of time, but silence is not the answer. You have to make that effort at least a few times before you say, all right, I've done everything I can. I need to maybe take a different approach to this and try something else. But setting boundaries is absolutely key. And it may seem like you're coming across as mean, or you're coming across as uncaring in the moment, when you establish those boundaries, but it will do you so much good in the long run. It will even do your parents a ton of good, because I think somewhere they will learn that from you. They will learn to start establishing boundaries with themselves and also with each other. And this is something that I have done, and I will tell you, it was not easy. It was actually terrifying for me, but I had to, set those rules with one of my parents and just say that, when you do this, it's really hurtful. And if I did the same thing to you, I don't think you would appreciate it. So I at least deserve the respect, and I deserve to be heard and to be understood. And if that's not possible, then maybe we need to rethink the relationship that we have. Again, it was not easy to say, but once I said it, I felt lighter, and I felt like at least I'd taken some action towards changing a pattern that felt extremely unhealthy to me and really left me feeling very down and very miserable and very distraught. So in order to stop that and to make that positive change, make sure you set boundaries with them. All right, number 4, and this is very, very important to remember, is that you are not the cause. You are not the one to blame. You are not the reason why they are the way they are. And this is one that is very easy to fall back on. When you're feeling not great, when the relationship with your parents feels like it's really hitting a dead end or it's downhill, and you reflect on your childhood, you start to feel that you were to blame, that you were the cause of a lot of the pain and the hurt that existed in the household. But that is not true. What you need to realize is you have to look at the facts. And the reality is that these folks, they have unresolved trauma. They have generational trauma, and that was never addressed. Just unhealthy coping mechanisms were passed down from one generation to the next, and you're actually trying to break that cycle. You should be extremely proud of yourself for doing that, because it's not easy. But that's besides the point. The fact of the matter is, and the point is, that you are not the cause of any of this. These are folks who never really processed their pain. They didn't learn how to let go of it so that they could be the best versions of themselves for them and for you. You never got that. In fact, they never got the best versions of themselves. So when you realize that, you stop taking things so personally, and you realize that, it's a personality trait. It's a part of their trauma, and this is how a lot of that narcissistic behavior, which can be damaging, can be toxic, and have a lasting impact, that's where it's coming from. They haven't figured out their own shit, to put it very simply, and the only way they know how to make sense of it is by, unfortunately destroying or negatively impacting the relationship that they have with you. So you have to really understand that you're not the one to blame. It's not your fault. It's just the way things are, and it's unfortunately the way they know how to deal with things, which isn't necessarily the best way. So do not take it personally. And this was a big one for me that helped me in my journey to heal and mend the relationship that I have with my parents. A lot of times growing up, I really felt that I was the cause. If it wasn't for me, the fights wouldn't happen. If it wasn't for me, there wouldn't be so much stress. There wouldn't be so much worry, and everything would be hunky dory. The reality of it is, whether I am there or not, their issues are their issues, and they will continue to exist in some form or another. So realize that. Please give yourself the break that you deserve, and understand that you are not to blame. And lastly, number 5 is, some people are kind of sensitive to this, but I hope you have an open mind towards it. It is, be open to intervention. Sometimes the pain and trauma runs so deep. There's so much history that you do need to turn to a professional for help. And that doesn't mean you're weak. That doesn't mean there is something wrong with you or your family. It's just that you are actually taking the first step in trying to fix this relationship that is extremely important to you. For instance, having a therapist or a family counselor, getting them involved can really help change the dynamic of the relationship that you have with your parents, because that sort of therapy involves everybody. It's really not just about you. It's about everybody. What I would recommend is, you do want to do your own healing on the side. You do want to have that therapy and not just have it as a family unit. You want to have both, actually, if you are considering this. But this is just one form of intervention. If you're somebody who's extremely involved in religious organizations, you have pastors and preachers, and you have gurus, and you have those spiritual counselors who can also intervene. Again, I'm not recommending one over the other. I'm just reminding you that you have choices. So you can turn to the professionals for help. In fact, you should. If you feel like this is something that you're not able to figure out, or it's taking just too much effort on your part, and it's, you know, really affecting your mental health, then it is time to get the help that you deserve. So, you know, make sure you do that, because it can really turn things around. In the process, it can feel unpleasant, it can feel grueling, it can feel like your world is crashing down, because, you know, anytime you start to peel off those layers, it's not an easy process. It can be, like I said, it can be very grueling. So yes, it is a lot of work up front, but as you keep at it and you stay patient and you continue to give it 100%, you will start to see a change down the road. It's, you know, that I can guarantee that you will start to see some differences, or you'll finally come to terms with what there is to come to terms with, accept things for what they are, and you might be able to find some peace within. So those are the 5 suggestions that I have. Just to wrap it up, let me remind you, 1 is see your parents as human beings, not just as mom and dad. You know, number 2 is stop comparing them to other parents. You know, number 3 is remember that you are not the cause. You are not the issue. It's not because of you that they are the way they are. Number 4 is make sure you set those boundaries. And then number 5 is accept any kind of help and intervention that you think is going to enhance this relationship or improve the relationship. You know, relationships are such a key component of our overall wellness. We may not always be aware of it, but they are a driving force when it comes to our mental, emotional, and physical health. You know, think about it. Sometimes you have a fight with your family, or you know, you've just had an unpleasant conversation, or you're really stressed about your parents' health or whatever's going on with them. You know, instead of going to the gym, you might just sit on the couch, you know, flipping through Netflix shows and worrying about what might happen to them. So there's all sorts of things that hold us back from being the healthiest and happiest versions of ourselves. And relationships are a huge piece of that puzzle. But regardless of, you know, whatever is going on, whatever relationship you have with your parents, whether it's absolutely fantastic or whether it needs a ton of work, I just want you to know you're not alone. There is hope. You do have to put in some work. You do have to put in the effort. You have to get out of your comfort zone, but it pays off in the end. And like I said, you're not alone. This is the journey that I've been on for many years. I'm still on this journey, and every time, you know, it's something new that I discover. And the more I heal this part of myself, or, you know, where it's my relationship with my parents, the more whole and complete I feel as a person. So I wish the same for you. As always, thank you for stopping by. It is always wonderful to have you and to join me on this journey. And I wish you the very best. And I will see you here next week. In the meantime, have a fantastic week. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.